Hello there, and as usual, I'm Aaron from Laststandgamers, and welcome. So today we're continuing on with the lazy way of surviving. First off, we're addressing a few of your comments though. Yes, the wind turbines would be far more effective than the solar panels on planets that allow them to be used, but this setup works on pretty much every planet. Now the other one was, why would you want to charge this little ship up? It has everything you need in it. Well, we're actually going to be converting this guy, as you can see, step by step into a miner. Now I want to make another concise, pretty quick video so you understand this, and to do so I'm going to be using a little bit of creative. So this is what we're going to be coming up with, a miner. Now there's a few things we want to think about before we start building. Number one is, can it support its own weight? And I'll just demo it on this particular miner over here. We'll go to our cockpit and we'll pop into this guy. And we'll just begin drilling right here. So we're going to have to add the drill to the toolbar, and once we've done that, we start drilling, and you'll notice two things happen. The ship actually is starting to fill up with ore, but I don't have enough thrust. You can see the weight on the bottom right there increasing, and look how quickly it's increasing the weight of that ship, and it's soon going to get to a point, there we go, and now I don't have enough thrust to take off. I've pretty much made a paperweight. The only way of doing this now would be to dump that ore. So that's the first thing we want to think about. Can it lift itself fully loaded? Now, the other thing is how we're going to load this ship. We could add a cargo container to it. That I don't recommend. The reason I don't recommend with a small miner like this, a cargo container, is because, number one, the drills store ore. Number two, the connectors store ore. So them alone can really kind of be a cargo container in themselves, and a cargo container will just add too much weight to your first little miner. So let's go through the design process. So first off, we need to get the survival kit out of our little starting pod. And the reason for that is because we need it for our base. It's not really safe aboard the miner, so we're going to hack out the survival kit. And to do so, it's very simple. Take away the cockpit that was stuck on before, and there's the survival kit. Now the survival kit itself, if we come over here, we get ourselves a character tool out again, and we just have a look at this section, only requires more steel plates. So you can see the difference is only within the steel plates. The other components are left the same. So all we have to do is produce some more steel plates, and we can build that guy on here. Now to further the platform as well, we need ourselves a cargo container. So a small cargo container is very simple. The reason for this is we can't actually store supplies in the basic assembler or refinery. So as we're stripping parts off our ship, we can come back here, dump them in there as temporary storage. And my recommendation is build this as close to that storage as possible. Now, the final stage is thinking a little bit ahead, and it's building ourselves connectors. This ship is going to have connectors on, and it's going to need to connect. So we've ripped off the survival kit. So we've left with this stage. We actually have the whole of the interior inside here, and if you are using the tech tree system, some of these blocks will be required to unlock the next stages of the tech tree. So cut them down, grind them back up. Now we gut it a little bit further. The next problem that we're going to have is to do with this generator here. So with the next step, you can see I relocate the generator. I just turn it around. Before you do this, the primary stage is to actually access the cargo container. Make sure that you've not got any ice remaining in it, and also take off the gyroscope, or you'll end up with a situation like this where it just breaks off and falls out the side. Store all them components back in your cargo container and keep going. So then the next stage is cockpit placement. So we place the cockpit in here, and we've also took off the landing gears, you can see in these steps. The reason for this is to kind of relocate that generator. You can't put it at the exact location because there's a gap within the floor. I'll just pop back there so you can see that gap in the floor. So we pop them off, it falls to the ground, do not panic, it'll be absolutely fine. Now moving to this next stage, you can see we need some sort of plumbing. So going over here, you can see I've plumbed it up with 2 of the connectors, and then I've added 6 batteries. That'll just allow us to have a little bit more power on board in case of emergency. I've also put the gyroscope back in, but at the center on the back of the cockpit. So you can see it's coming along quite nicely at the moment. Now the next stage is adding the drills. To add the drills, simply cut off this side segment. So I'll actually just highlight it in yellow where you want to be cutting. So you want to be cutting there to there, and there to there, and make it square off like I've done at this side, and the connecting points that are in the back should line up perfectly. Now moving on to the next stage is we're going to have to activate our thrusters. So if I pop inside here, and you can see that these thrusters are on the see only thing, so we want to select them, we want to show them so they show up on the HUD, and then we want to enable them so we can actually take off the ship. So I'll disable them for the moment. So you can see I've lifted it up off the ground. This is the sort of stage where you can start messing around, adding landing gears where you want to. You can also add a connector on the bottom due to that port. So if I just start cutting away, you can see we've actually got that connector hole here, and we can just slip in that connector on the bottom. So do something like so. So we've got now connector ports on the bottom. We could have one on the top, like I've done here. So we've got the connector point. We've also got the thruster stage. So this is probably the most important stage, working out how much thrust you need and how much thrust your batteries can actually be capable of lifting. So I've worked out that with one thruster, one large thruster, I can just about get off the ground when this guy is fully loaded. And when I'm talking fully loaded, we move on to this next step where we've got both the connectors full, the drill bits full, as well as the cockpit storage full. So there's still a lot of storage in here, but you can see how we've condensed it down. Now we need to do the final test. And to do this final test, I'm just going to bring this little ship towards the ground here. We're going to disable the landing gear because you'll notice how we just locked to the landing gear well as soon as we did. So we disabled the auto lock, so it's now on a manual sort of locking system, and we're just going to scrape up some ice. So ice is actually going to be even heavier than picking up some of the other objects in this particular scenario, but do remember different objects weigh different amounts. So say for instance, if we go into our inventory here, you can see the ice, we've got the mass and the volume. It might take up more space, but a smaller object might weigh more, so that's something else to take into consideration when you're traveling. But the most important factor really is to understand that ore tends to be about the same in weight, even though it does vary with some specific materials. So you should be able to lift and manage your ship really well. So we've probably maxed out the storage of this guy. Actually, I don't think we have. We can continue going. Let's actually have a look at in our inventory. So we've got 2.7k. We've maxed out most of the containers. We've not maxed out the drills. It's feeding a little bit into the hydrogen oxygen generator at the same time. So we can continue going through here and picking up a bit more. But the important factor is that we're not using maximum power, and we can still return to base. Now that we can return to base, we can actually head over to that connector. So you can see we're not maxing out the power. We're getting close to it, very, very close. So you can see we're going 100 in some sectors, but we're still in control of the ship. If you max out power, you'll notice a drop in altitude. So let's just bring it back into this section. This is pretty much one of the cheapest ways, I believe, that you can build a miner off the start without really going too much. The biggest upgrade I'd do next to this guy is increase the power storage. So we connect that up and then we can offload. And I'll show you just quickly how to offload if you don't know how to do this. So you want to make sure that it shows all the connecting inventories, and all we want to do is find that massive connector or storage container that we've got here. So we've got the basic assembler, basic connectors, we've got drill 3, that is actually us. That's showing us, where is that connector? I always struggle to find bloody kits. There we go, cargo container. So we just want to offload all our resources from all our connectors into that particular section. So there we go, we've loaded everything up. We'll even take the hydrogen and oxygen out of there, so you'll see it'll automatically suck ice back into there, so you need to be careful of that. And then as simple as that, we are good to go. We've got ourselves a miner that's going to be efficient, it's going to last, and you can see the biggest issue with this is battery life. Depending on how far I go, it's going to move the battery life from 10 minutes to 12, 13. We've just got to be careful with it, and we've got to keep an eye on our battery life as well, because as we use these drills, battery life will drop. So you can see it drops down quite considerably while using them as well. So we just need to be really careful and remember to go and recharge this guy when necessary. And the importance of it is we kept the original survival ship and we got ourselves a miner together very quickly. Now, one more factor that I want to touch on before I break this video up is for later development in survival. When we continue this series on, we'll be talking about 3D printing, and 3D printing is a great way of not really worrying about ships. You can print off a lot of miners, you can print them off for your friends, and as you can see, as we come over to this 3D printing bay here, this particular ship fits very well within the 3D printing bay. So we could convert the ship, for instance, into a welding type craft, into a weapons platform. It could have multiple purposes. All it does is requires us to replace them drill bits on the front. So that is food for thought. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tips and tricks showing you how to build a miner and get to the next stage of your platform. If you found it useful, make sure to hit that like button and give us a tasty little comment. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.